It's like midnight for me right now.
Oh yeah, it's changing time zones. Yep.
Oh, we're live.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Malizia Vendée Globe live show. It is week 12 here. We are calling from various locations. We have Will on the line from Le Sable d'Olonne, sitting just below me in the room downstairs, and we have Cole joining us from her boat, First Light. Great to have you guys with us.
Hello again.
How's it going,
Thanks
Cole?
for having us.
Hello.
It's pretty good. It's blowing a lot right now, not nearly as much as Boris is dealing with. But yeah, still Southern Ocean sailing for the next 2 weeks or so, and then I'll be free.
Super nice. Yeah, and Will and I, bad as Boris has, of course, but we have a little video clip here so you guys can feel the Sable d'Olonne energy. Hang on. Oh, it's not.
That's exactly what it looked like this morning. When we left the house this morning, the waves are unbelievable out there at the moment.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh,
Not playing.
Some classic North Atlantic conditions at the moment, but yeah, it's making it challenging getting to the finish. I think we're just reconnecting, and Holly is going to come and join me down here instead.
Okay. Perfect. We're back. Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. Internet issues here in Sable d'Olonne, but we are back. So, as we said, it is a very, very wet, windy time here. Oh, Cole is up, so I'm guessing something's also happening on her boat.
I think she said earlier before we joined, she's got about 35 to 40 knots of wind as well. So probably pretty full-on conditions out there for her as well on the other side of the planet. And as we know, Boris is dealing with some really tough conditions at the moment. It's really strong winds out there. It's going to be a challenging few days, but he's doing an amazing job. He's got really positive mindset at the moment, and yeah, I think you've spoken to him a bit already, Holly.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite impressive to see, actually. Like, it's been so complicated. I think every half a day, like within the team, we're updating each other on the arrival. Obviously, not with Boris, but it's really, yeah, it's really a big. Wow, Cole's upside down now. Hopefully, she's good. Cole's phone is upside down. Yeah, it's really a big challenge. Will is going to talk to us more about it in a minute, but this weather system is just crazy and moving, so quickly, and just 50 miles up or down, it can make a huge difference. So Boris is really having to weigh up the risks, like he wants to preserve the boat, of course, and be safe. And it's weather like this where it can even be like a race decision that they say, okay, we have to stop. So he's really, he's just having to be careful basically, but still wanting to be in the race. So it's quite a challenging situation, I would say, for him.
And we're here in the Sable d'Olonne, waiting for him at the moment. It's super stormy here at the moment. We've seen some of the other boats finishing, and and they've all managed to get across the line safely. A few of the boats this morning and yesterday, Benjamin Detroit and Clarice had to go to La Rochelle because just going up the channel at the moment is just too challenging. And so yeah, we're here waiting for him and excited for him to arrive. And yeah, in the meantime, it's good to catch up with the team who, we've all been different parts of the world, while Boris has been sailing around the world. So it's good to all be back together here and catching up again.
Definitely.
Right, Cole.
Cole, you're back. Tell us what happened.
What was it? You're on mute.
You're on mute.
I think from the facial expressions.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, we just broached really badly, and there's this thing that happens now is that it just without the HR pilot, now when it broaches and it goes into a rudder stop, and then all the alarms in the boat go off. And then it was where it was shutting down the autopilot, so that's why I ran, because I thought it was going to shut down the autopilot and tack us, which would have been really bad. But I'm only a little wet, so carry on.
Like literally 30 seconds after you got up, everything flipped upside down, so we could kind of tell exactly what had happened. The keyboard just went totally upside down. So good to see you back sat there. A little bit, you look a little bit wetter now, a little bit salt sprayed.
Yeah, a little bit salt sprayed, but we're good. We're fine. Now I just gotta find my headphones. I threw them, so I'm gonna put my spare ones on.
No problem. We can we'll keep talking while you get yourself together. Happy you're safe. Yeah, we were just saying we saw some of the other competitors.
Guys, continue.
We saw some of the other competitors come in actually, and it was nice to see people like Paul Mayer and Thomas Riant, who are like good friends of Boris and friends of the team, and we were talking to them, and they were just saying like, yeah, Boris is the only one who could keep such like a positive spirit and keep that energy that he shows, I think, so well. And yeah, it's super unlucky, of course, and they're just like hoping that he gets here soon. But also I find it like, yeah, commendable that he can keep so clear and calm and just keep coming, you know. It's also a testament in itself, I would say. Have you been talking to Boris much, Cole?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, Boris and I've talked almost every day, mostly about like what's going on in my world. And I was in the rudder compartment the other day, and I texted him, and
You've just
that
muted.
could help me with these things.
You're back.
Let's try it. Once again.
That's better.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we've talked almost every day. I had to call in a favor to Pifu and to Boris to help out with some autopilot stuff. So they've been great. And then last night, Boris asked me if I know anything about trash TV on Netflix and what to watch when I'm stressed out in the Southern Ocean. So I sent him all of my favorites of all the terrible reality TV shows that I watch when it's blowing, 50, 60, 70 knots, and there's nothing to do other than just like hunker down. So I don't know what he's watching right now, but I did give like 16 different, like Love is Blind and Drink Masters.
Oh my God. I said Love is Blind too.
Yes. There's Love is Blind Germany just came out. I just finished it, actually. I know it sounds terrible, but there's lots of time to watch television out here when you're not broaching and having to run outside and when it's raining.
I wonder if he picks Love is Blind. That's funny. We also said Sex Education was another good one to watch.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I love it. So we're going to show you, before we go to Weather with Will, we're going to just play you the latest videos from Boris, because he sent us a few in a row today. Some are going to go live in a minute, but one here that you really see the conditions. Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, he can be inside in the cockpit.
Exactly. This one, I think, really shows the conditions because he has no head sail up, and Will and I were just talking that's actually for us the first time, I think.
Yeah, I don't think in a race you've ever had to experience that much wind and waves as well. That really the only sail he needs at the moment is a mainsail, because anything more than that and he's going too fast into the waves and losing control of the boat. So I think, yeah, it's really a sign to show of how tough the conditions are out there at the moment.
Yeah, at least it's sunny.
At least, yeah, it's nice and sunny in those. It's much better than in Western France. But no, it's yeah, it looks really intense in those videos that he sent. So
yeah,
I can only imagine.
And actually, when I spoke to him earlier, though, he did say that the foil repair, foil, being held in was holding. Like he was at that point not too worried about it, so that was really good. Obviously he's on a good time, so to speak, but he did say that it's holding well, so that's good.
Yeah, because I mean, of all those, you know, not only has he got really tough conditions, he's had to deal with all these breakdowns that he's had the last few weeks, and the boat is, you know, obviously we're that foil has the damage and it's holding in place, but to keep it going in those conditions is very tough. But he's doing an amazing job.
Definitely. And how about weather with Will?
Okay.
We want to see what's
Yes,
coming.
yeah. So we can have a little look at what the fleet have coming up in the next few days. So it's an ever-changing situation, like we saw last week. That really powerful jet stream is bringing all these strong depressions in the North Atlantic, and any of the people watching today who live in Western Europe and maybe some are from Ireland as well will really know how windy it's been and just how much energy each of these storms are bringing. And one thing I think to point out to begin with is just how unpredictable the storms are as well. It's not like we can say what's going to happen 10 days before, even 5 days, even 3 days before the actual weather event. It's really hard to be precise and accurate on it. So looking ahead more than 48 hours is kind of 48 hours is sort of our limit of being, okay, 100%, this is what the weather's going to be like. So we'll give a little overview of the fleet. So at the moment, we have the non-foiling, the daggerboard boats, the first daggerboard boats, just at the latitude of the Canaries, down here in the west. They're kind of the group coming through around the high pressure of the Azores, which is in sort of a typical situation at the moment. And then you've got Roman Atanasio, a boat slightly ahead of the group, and he's also quite west of the Azores. They've all been forced quite westerly, these groups down here. And then the next boats to finish is Boris and Sam Davies, who are currently west of Portugal. And as we've seen, we've got this really big storm. It's leftover of a hurricane, actually. And that really strong wind is just passing Cape Finisterre at the moment. And luckily for Boris and Sam, they're able to sneak just below this depression while it keeps moving towards the east and towards the land. And you know, if they were to be somewhere over here, actually I can show you right now, off Finisterre, we're looking at 11 to 12 meter waves. And something to remember on these forecasts is that's an average. That's sort of a significant wave height. So what it's effectively saying is a third of the waves are going to be 11.4 meters. But what it's not telling you is some of those waves, you get the occasional rogue wave, which could be 12, 15 meter waves. And just to think of how big that really is, you know, the IMOCA mast is 28 meters. It's half the size of the IMOCA mast. So really conditions that aren't suitable to put any sort of boat in. So Boris is right on the edge of it, and Sam as well. They're right on the edge of those really strong conditions. And so for Roman and for the non-foiling boats behind, they're able to really avoid this system. And they're probably going to be looking for the next low pressure system coming in across the Atlantic to take them east towards the finish. Looking ahead 24 hours to tomorrow, so we can see how the high pressure is reforming over here in the west of the Atlantic, and basically these daggerboard boats and Roman are going to have to wait for this to pass in order to then get round towards to start pointing towards the east. For Boris and Sam, there should be a nice window for them to be able to go around Finisterre, and I'm just highlighting this part of the weather because this is a slight high pressure ridge in between the two low pressure systems. So that first one, which we're dealing with at the moment, is up towards the northeast, and then we've got the next depression, which is really defining what the finish will look like for Boris and Sam at the moment. The forecast is for the different forecasts are saying it can go either north, south, and it can also change in intensity. So if we have a look 12 hours after that, so this is Wednesday morning, we'll have Boris and Sam somewhere in the middle of the Bay of Biscay, and we can see at the moment, this is the EC model. The low pressure is right in the middle of the Biscay, and it's got this very strong cold front associated with it, bringing strong winds. But the good point is the sea state would have dropped off a bit by this point. We're looking at 5 to 7 meter waves instead of that sort of 9 or 10, which just gets a bit too extreme there, really. And basically, it's a question of timing. We're just going to have to see if this front passes through and if it comes right at the finish. And that will really determine how Boris and Sam can get to the finish line and whether or not they can come up the channel. For Roman and for the Daggerboard boats, and Maitre Cock as well, yeah, he's not part of the race anymore, but he is there next to Roman as well. They're just behind this high pressure, and then they're looking for this next depression, which they can start to hook into. And they've got nice downwind conditions with not many waves, so pretty nice sailing. Having a look at the different routings, so we can see that eventually, once these Daggerboard boats and Roman, especially, this is him transitioning through the high pressure. He'll then be able to ride ahead of the front and get most of the way towards back towards Western Europe. For the Daggerboard boats, they'll have to be a little bit behind, but they also get to hook into this front as well. So those boats will all be in fairly similar weather situations. But for Roman, for Sam and Boris, this evening and tomorrow, this is still seeing 40, 50, probably gusts of 60 to 65 knots of wind. And then it should be easing off a little bit around the Finisterre area before accelerating again in the next front. And hopefully this is an arpege model routing. There's a little bit less wind right at the finish, and we might get lucky, fingers crossed, which might allow Boris to cross the finish line on the 29th. Otherwise, we might be having to wait for a little bit longer. So that's the situation. A little bit unpredictable beyond this depression at the moment. Tricky to know what's best, but we have to the more time we get, the closer we get to the event, the more predictable or the more accurate we can be with what the forecasts are going to do, and keep our fingers crossed that Boris and Sam can get across the finish line safely.
Exactly. So basically, finish is looking like Wednesday or Thursday. Late Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. There's a channel entry at about 5:30 local time, so it's just before the dark on Wednesday, and it's really depending on the sea state. We tried to speak to the locals around here about what's actually possible, and they kind of say that the sea state isn't necessarily the huge problem. You can still come in when there's 5-meter waves, but the problem is really if there's really strong wind pushing up the channel. So if the wind's from the south or southwest, then you've also got very strong wind, which makes it more complicated. But the good news is Thursday and Friday it looks much lighter conditions, so there will be a window at some point. It's just a question of how long you have to wait.
Exactly. And actually, speaking of that, Boris reported earlier today that he saw 65 knots of wind, right?
It's incredible. That's unbelievably intense, and it's right there in the middle of the Atlantic as well. The waves that are going with it must just be huge. I think at the moment he should be seeing 8 maybe 9-meter waves sometimes. And this evening and tonight, definitely say a little thought or a little wish for Boris to get through the conditions tonight, I think, for sure.
Yeah. I think I saw actually Sam Davies just uploaded a video a few hours ago, and she had like 45 to 50 knots of wind she saw, and 7-meter waves. So she's getting slightly easier. I mean, easy is not the right word, but slightly lighter conditions than Boris, like being a bit behind him. But yeah, I mean, that's relative, of course. But Boris also said actually in the most recent voice note that he got knocked down 8 times in the last few hours. So he's definitely also experiencing the broaches where he comes off the wave and surfs a bit and able to get back up. So as we saw with Cole, expertly demonstrating a minute ago.
If I had more time, I would have brought you up with me, but it's dark outside and it's raining. So I would have just grabbed you and brought you up so you could watch the scramble of how to fix things and switch things on the autopilot, which is pretty much what Boris is doing, except he is in a nice, comfy, cabin where the old style class 40s, you have to go outside to do everything, unfortunately.
That's for sure, yeah.
I don't know if this relates to you much, Cole, as well, but one thing that always makes a difference with the sea state is the direction of the waves. And if it's behind you, it's generally a lot more manageable than when the waves are coming from the side. When we had the Southern Ocean in one of the in the legs of the ocean race, we had 7-meter waves. Not even quite as big as what Boris is having now, but because they were directly from the side, when one of the waves were breaking over the boat, you would lose the rudders and then you lose control of the boat. And that was actually the moment Rosie fell out the bunk and was thrown across the boat as well. But I think you probably get a
Yeah.
lot more of that in the Southern Ocean, because you have all these different systems, whereas in the North Atlantic, it's and luckily, I think for Boris at the moment, the waves are more from behind, so it makes it a little bit more manageable, even if they're a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that with the systems here, at least in the Southern Ocean, you mainly have like the prevailing is from like the southwesterly, so you get like the southwesterly waves. But then, so I normally like jibe early before the systems, and so that I at least will always try to keep the waves behind me, because if you don't, then you get lifted into the waves, and that's how I cracked my ribs. Was the first system I was in. I didn't understand that, you just start getting lifted, and if you have it on true wind angle, the boat just starts turning, and you're like, oh, da, 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 everything's fine. And I was sitting like in this exact position, and I was picked up and completely tossed. Probably very similarly to Rosie. It just happens so fast, and you don't even know until you're in the air.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I think we have a few questions, and one of them is relating a bit to this. Is like at the moment, Boris, we saw is sailing with no head sail, and we need to try and slow down the boat to stop this happening, right? To stop the boat pitching off the waves, or maybe you can tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I think so I think there's a couple of reasons he's doing this. So firstly, right now, just to the north of Boris, there's the worst of the conditions. And what he doesn't, and around Cape Finisterre, I think we were talking about it earlier, Cole, is when these sort of systems come towards Cape Finisterre, they just get accelerated. On the forecast, they can be 30, 40% more than what they are. So firstly, Boris is slowing down, I think, to try and not be so much in the conditions. Sam Davies is 100, 150 miles behind, and she's got already quite a lot less bad conditions. And then also, it's a tricky balance, because if you have too little if he goes too slow, then you don't have enough flow over the rudders, and you lose the grip, you lose the steerage. So he's trying to find the balance between slowing down a bit, but not going too slow that he loses the rudders and then has less control of the boat. And one thing that's tricky is when you have no head sails, is all the load of the sails is at the back of the boat in the mainsail. So that actually makes the boat less balanced. It puts all the load in the back. But sometimes you've got no choice. Sometimes you need to go a bit slower. And it seems to be this is the best setup for Boris at the moment. And even just with the mainsail with 3 reefs, he's doing like 13, 14 knots average, which is it's just incredible.
Still very fast.
And luckily, he has a really good boat for these conditions as well. With a perfectly, nice round hull and a lot of
strong boat.
Yes, yeah, it's a nice strong boat, and that will really be helping him through these conditions.
Perfect. And we also had a question in relation to the foil. Obviously, with the damage, we're just curious, like, what is it sailing like? What is it to sail with this damaged foil? How's that feeling, I guess? And does it change how Boris is sailing?
Yeah, has he mentioned that much to you, Cole? Has he said much about his foil repair?
I think that he doesn't trust it that much. I think that he's playing it really safe, that it's all about just getting to the finish line, that's the most important thing right now, and just making sure that it doesn't cause more damage. And so from what we have talked about the foil, I think it's just getting there and being as safe as humanly possible, and not pushing the boat in any shape or form. Like the boat is pushing itself. He's not pushing the boat at all.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. The boat is pushing itself. It doesn't require much input to get going.
Yeah.
The boat's just doing all of it.
And I think maybe for people at home, like maybe they just imagine, okay, the foil would rip off, and then it would be gone. But I think it can be a bit more serious than that, right? If a foil comes off.
Yeah, because it doesn't fully. It's still such a strong piece. It's damaged, so it's unusable, but it's strong enough that it will stay on the boat. And so what you could end up with is it losing even all its structural integrity. And I said repaired earlier, but he's not repaired it. He's just lashed it on the boat. It's still not usable. And if it was to half fall off, then it can hit the hull. It can cause other damages. And in those sorts of conditions, you really don't want to have to be trying to climb out there. So I think he did a really good job early, 10 days ago or so now, securing it. All that work, all that climbing out on the foil, to make sure it's really sturdy for these sorts of situations where he just hopefully doesn't have to worry about it and can just keep doing what he's doing.
Exactly.
Just hunker down and let the boat do what it knows how to do. Yeah.
Watch and love is blind.
And I mean,
also, just watch your TV.
And a big part is also finishing, huh? Like that's also with the race like the Vendée Globe, like you get this far, you don't want to not be able to finish. I mean, I think it's also mentally like just you fight for the finish, and okay, the ranking now, it's maybe not as important, but really finishing is still important, I would say. And I think like anyway, we're all proud of where he's up to, but I think just like for him as well, like finishing is the key.
One thing I think he was really intrigued by was these conditions at Finisterre.
Yeah,
I think he was a bit like,
excited.
I've never seen sort of waves that big, like, and I was really impressed to see how positive he was to kind of
he seemed curious. He seemed really excited about it, and just like when I asked him, like, are you fearful about it? Like, what's going on? And he said, no, I kind of want to see it, but I don't want the boat to get damaged or anything. And since he hasn't had the best luck, but I think that he's doing pretty well, staying as positive as possible. Even the other day, I was complaining and upset about my own situation, and he was just like, yeah, it's fine, you'll be done really soon, and I'm like, you're the one that's going into 65 knots and 11-meter waves, like, how are you feeling? And he's like, oh, I'm fine, what TV should I watch? It's a very it's a good mentality to have. yeah exactly.
And we had another question, actually. How is the J2 repair holding up? Because that's obviously critical to the mast integrity. Obviously, we actually have the other cable, right? So maybe you can talk to people a bit more about that, Will.
Yeah. So so basically, what happened with the J2 is it's the hook. It was a system that would allow Boris to drop the sail should it be damaged, but unfortunately, this piece failed. So actually, he had to climb up there and just lash it on, and he's done a very good lashing. So there's no chance of it falling down, which is good. The actual structure of the sail, everything else is absolutely perfect. I don't know if anyone would have seen Tom Royan finishing recently, but we could see his J2 hanging off because it was there was bits of the sail left up at the top because it's a lashed up sail, left hanging at the top. But for Boris' situation, he can still use it. It's all holding up great. If we kind of go through the different list of things, there's the foil, which he's lashed to the side, and that's all in good condition. The J2 all usable and functioning. That's great. He had the lightning as well, so he's on backup electronics at the moment.
Quite reduced on a lot of
quite
the things,
reduced, yeah. But luckily everything's, and touching wood, everything's functioning as it should be, and he's got a fully functioning autopilot. And he's just and this is why
which is crucial.
Doubles on these boats of everything. So so far so good.
Yeah, definitely. And we had another question: is what are we doing? Like, how are we keeping calm in Sablon while we wait for him? I mean, our work continues from everywhere, so of course we're still working away here, and it's very nice to see each other again. Will and my baby met for the first time, so that's nice. They became friends. Jack and Nova, very cute.
Oh, that's so cute.
It's funny watching them interact, like a 2-month-old and a 9-month-old. And
it's very cute. So yeah, we keep busy here, and we keep obviously working away and planning. There is a lot of planning happening because the plan is changing the whole time, which leads on to one of the other questions: is how will we manage to get on the Amoca with the rib? And that is a very good question, one that we've been also debating, because you may have seen the arrivals recently with Clarice and Benjamin. People couldn't, like the tech team couldn't get onto the boat actually. For some of those, I think they had to wait till the very last minute. So it was quite an unusual finish. For instance, Clarice crossed the line and then had to sail alone to La Rochelle. So that's probably never happened in Vendée history, I guess. Normally that's the moment you get your first hug and you see, you really feel your first person. So I think, we have to just wait and see, right? What the conditions.
Yeah, it's, above sort of when we get to 3.5 meter waves, it's really challenging to get on board these boats. It's scary, it's dangerous. Getting off them, at the start line, when we've been in situations where there's been 4 meter waves at the starts of races, it's fine because we're jumping off the boat, and it's much easier to pick someone up from the water. But when we're trying to actually get on the boat, maneuvering a rib alongside it is really challenging. So, and looking at the forecast this week, that's probably one of our main limiting factors, more than actually entering the channel, is can we get a crew on in order to go up the channel. We'll all have dry suits on. We're all going to have all the safety gear that we can think of for the situation, and helmets, and but at some point there's just a limit of what's actually manageable. So we've got to play it by ear, and hopefully we can jump on board.
Yeah, exactly. I think we'll know quite a lot more tomorrow, but it is changing all the time. So we will keep you guys posted on social media and stuff about that. But I keep getting many emails about when is Boris arriving, but of course we don't know the answer yet. But we will keep you guys.
Not yet.
Not yet. I don't know either. Sorry. There's also one last question. To go on to the next section would be, are these conditions normal in the Atlantic? Someone is asking, like, is this normal? I think Finisterre is renowned, right, for being rough, but this is, I would say, unusually bad.
It's it's a period. It's a timing thing. Sometimes in the winter months they tend to come in groups together. It's normally 1 to 2 weeks where you'll have a whole bunch of storms coming through at once, and they're all hitting, and they're all and that's as the jet stream moves north and south. I would say the actual intensity of these storms, though, in particular, is pretty unprecedented, and it's, as we've seen with climate change and things like this, is becoming a more regular thing. And records were broken last week in terms of wind speeds in Ireland and Western Europe.
Yeah. And waves off the coast of Nazaré and stuff.
Exactly. So I think we can say that this is pretty extreme conditions, pretty unusual.
Yeah.
And pretty bad timing.
Yeah. I was saying to Will earlier, actually, and Cole, that we've had such a bad finish in terms of weather in the team, well, at least since 2018 that I know of anyway. And I was saying, Cole, your finish was like a mixed bag when you finished with first light, right?
Yeah, it was I only had to finish into A Coruña, which is just past Finisterre, so it's only about 40 miles, and so all you got to do is just sneak in, and the wind, it comes from like the south, and when it comes up it accelerates, and so I was seeing like 65 knots at like 100 degrees true, and then, which is a lot, too much breeze for a 40-foot boat. And then once I got just in the lee of Spain, it just shut off, and it was the nicest thing, and I just floated to the finish line upwind, and it was lovely. So it was a total mixed bag.
If we can have something like that,
you'll be happy.
If you can send your thoughts about that, Cole, out to here in the Sab, that would be great.
I know.
65 knots, and then
I worked
or something.
Yeah.
That would be the dream.
Yeah.
I hope one of the models is correct over the other one. Yeah, nice. Thank you, guys. So we're going to go to our promo section. I like this week's one. What arrival song, guys, would you like to hear if one of you was coming into the dock on Wednesday or Thursday? What would be your arrival song? Cole, you're first. Or Will, you're first.
No. Cole's first. I actually didn't think about this. I need to think about it.
Oh God. I think that all my Instagram followers would say "Beautiful Things" by Benson Boone would probably be mine. But I love this one song. It's called "The Best Part." It's kind of this remix, and it's really good. And I listen to it, and I sometimes cry to it. It's a great song. And that would probably be mine. So "The Best Part."
Well,
I think. What
about you, Will? What would you do?
If it's the finish this Thursday and Friday in these conditions, I think it's Survivor probably.
Survivor, that one. That's a good one.
It has to be, doesn't it?
I like it.
I don't really have a specific one though, other than like that's specific to this finish in these conditions.
Yeah, that's good. I like that one. It's like a tick. And on to our prize section, guys. Last time the winner was Benedict Denning. So please, Benedict, email us on the info@Boris Herrmann email so we can send you your prize after the end of the Vendée. And the question this week, guys, the first one to answer in the live chat wins. All the terms and conditions are below. And the question is, what is the full name of the first female sailor to finish this edition of the Vendée Globe? What is the full name of the first female sailor to finish this edition of the Vendée Globe? Please, correct answer in the live chat to win. So it's been very nice to see you guys. We may have one more show with Boris when he arrives. Let's see. But I think this is our last show, just the three of us. Let's see. But that's my very strong feeling.
Yeah.
So it may be on a different time as well, actually. So I guess if Boris is arriving, then we may do a live show at a different point in the week. So it might not be next Monday. It might be earlier. So keep your eyes peeled on social media. We will let you guys know. But it's been lovely to talk to you all. Thanks so much for joining. And ciao.
Thanks, everyone.